All right, continuing on with radicals today, and we're going to be talking about radical equations. And a radical equation is an equation that contains a variable in the radicand. Square root of x is equal to 5 is a radical equation because we have a variable in the radicand. To solve for x, you must eliminate the radical. Okay? So what happens if I take the square root of x and I square that? Okay? Because those are inverse or opposite operations of one another, the square and the square root cancel out and I get x by itself. So if I have something that looks like this, the square root of x plus 3, how do I get rid of the radical? I square the entire expression. Square, square, that goes away, and I'm left with x plus 3. Okay? The tricky part, not tricky, but the thing that you have to really pay attention to when you're doing these is that sometimes you end up with an answer in this process that doesn't make your original equation true. So you must check on these to make sure your solution makes the original equation true, because sometimes you may come up with a negative answer that wouldn't work, that would make a not real number because it would be under your radical. So you've got to check and make sure that you're coming up with an answer that makes sense. So let's solve this first one. Square root of x is equal to 5. Remember, my goal whenever I'm solving for a variable is to isolate that variable, to get it alone. Right now, the square root of x is being taken. I need to get rid of that. The opposite or the inverse operation of square root is squaring. So I need to square this so that I get rid of the square root. That leaves me with x all alone. If I square one side of my equation, I have to square the other side because I have to keep my equation balanced. So x is equal to 25. Example number 2. If only they were going to all be that simple, right? Example number 2. Solve and check the square root of x is equal to negative 8. Okay, so what we're going to do, square root of x is equal to negative 8. I need to eliminate this operation that's happening to my x, this taking the square root of, so I'm going to square it, which also means I'm going to square the other side. Those operations cancel one another out. I'm left with x is equal to 64. Okay, now plug that back into the original. Is the square root of 64 negative 8? No, there is no number that can make this true at all. Nothing can make this true. I can't take the square root of anything and get a negative. So there is no solution to this problem. So if you're given a homework problem like this, you have to write no solution or empty set. Okay, you have to write something like that. All right. Skill check number 1. Let's look at number 3 and number 4. Number 3, square root of x is equal to negative 4. Hopefully by the steps that we just worked through on example number 2, you recognize there's no solution to this. There's nothing that I can take the square root of and arrive at a negative number. Okay. Number 4, square root of x is equal to 12. Square both sides. X is equal to 144. Square root of 144 is in fact 12. We have done it right. If you want to challenge yourself, the answer to number 1 is 49. The answer to number 2 is 2500. Okay. Rules for solving radical equations. Isolate the radical on one side of the equation, square both sides of the equation, solve the resulting equation, and check your solution. Example number 3, solve and check the square root of 3x plus 2, is equal to 8. Square root of 3x plus 2 is equal to 8. 3 is being multiplied by x under the radical. The first thing that I have to do is eliminate this constant that I have on both sides, or on this side, on the left side. So I need to subtract 2 from both sides. That's the very first step I need to do. Don't worry about what's under the radical here. I've got to eliminate this first. I'm left with 3x is equal to 8 minus 2 is 6. Now I'm going to square both sides. That is going to eliminate the radical on the left-hand side, and I'm left with 3x is equal to 6 squared, which is 36. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 3, because 3 divided by 3 is 1, leaving my x all alone, and x is equal to 12. And you can do a quick check on that. 3 times 12 plus 2. Okay, so that's the square root of 36 plus 2. 6 plus 2 is 8. We've done it correctly. How about example number 4? Solve and check the square root of 10 plus x plus 6 is equal to 7. That plus 6 is outside of my radical, so I'm going to eliminate that first by subtracting 6 from both sides. That leaves me with 10 plus x under the radical is equal to 1. Square both sides, eliminating that square root there, leaving me with 10 plus x is equal to 1. Subtract 10 from both sides, x is equal to negative 9. Okay? Do not think that because we just came up with an answer that was negative that it's not going to be true. Watch what happens when we check this. Square root of 10 plus negative 9 plus 6. So underneath the radical we have 10 plus negative 9. That gives us a positive 1. 10 plus negative 9 is a positive 1. Plus 6. The square root of 1 is 1. Plus 6 is 7. We arrived back at our answer. It's correct. Example number 5. Solve negative 4 times the square root of x is equal to 28. So here, the radical x, okay, the square root of x is being multiplied by negative 4. So I need to get rid of that negative 4 that's on the outside first. That cancels out. I get the square root of x. Hopefully my pencil doesn't run out before I'm done. I get the square root of x is equal to negative 7. Can I do that? No, I cannot have a square root of a number equal to something negative. That is not a real number. So no solution to this one. Box skill check number 2, number 4, and number 5. Okay, divide both sides here by 9, okay, to eliminate that 9 that is being multiplied by x plus 1. Okay, so I'm left here with the radical x plus 1 is equal to negative 108. Can't talk to you right now. Negative 108 divided by 9 is negative 12. Now, I'm not even going to bother continuing here because I have a square root of x, okay, equal to something negative. It can't happen. No real solution, okay? How about number 4? How about number 4? We have square root of 68 plus x is equal to 8. We're going to square everything. That gives us 68 plus x is equal to 64. Why did I just write the radical sign under there? I just eliminated it. 68 plus x is equal to 64. Subtract 68 from both sides. X is equal to negative 4. Do a quick check of that. 68 plus negative 4 gives you the square root of 64, which is 8. We've done it correctly. If you want to challenge yourself on these, number 1, x is equal to 27. Number 2, no solution. Number 3, x is equal to 2. And number 6, x is equal to 17 and a half.